a bait and switch in the Mountain West volleyball forfeit crisis. This is Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay-Webb. There was supposed to be a volleyball match in Reno, Nevada on October 26th between San Jose State and Nevada in the Mountain West Conference. With the conference and the schools agreeing, that match got switched to San Jose, California, which opens the door for the Nevada players to forfeit. Now, the Nevada players said that they were going to forfeit because of allegations that San Jose State has a transgender woman on the team, even though officially neither they or the other teams that have forfeited throughout this season are willing to actually say that. Now, just a reminder for those who are being willfully transphobic. It keeps with the editorial policies of Transposition News and Char Sports 1. You see, Blair Fleming has played college volleyball, as we said, for the last 3 years. She has not publicly said anything about her gender identity at all during that time. Let's say that Blair Fleming is trans. Let's say she comes out with it. If that is the case, then the NCAA already has the rules set up. According to NCAA regulations this year, she would have to put paperwork proving that she meets the serum testosterone standard, which is the sub-elite USA volleyball standard that they're going by. 10 nanomoles per liter, proof that you've been on it for at least 1 year. Again, she's played for at least 3 years. So the NCAA, if she is trans, already has a mountain of paperwork, and prior to this season got more. It's the only way that she could be on the court for San Jose State. She has met all those criterion already. And if San Jose State makes it to the Mountain West tournament or the NCAA tournament, she would have to refile and resubmit tests and paperwork again. That's the way the rules work, and that's the things that the transphobes, the professional ones, aren't telling you. But don't let the facts get in the way of a good story or concerns about safety and fairness. Something Nevada's captain, Sia Lilly, tried to sell on Fox News this week.
You intend to forfeit the match against San Jose State. Tell us why.
Yes, we just want our rights to be upheld on the court, and we believe that women deserve fair opportunity, and it's just not right. I think that me and my teammates have gone over the fact that this is running a big risk for us. I mean, our one goal as a team is to win a Mountain West championship, and by forfeiting a game, that puts that at risk, which is our main goal. So, of course, there's repercussions in that sense, but we all know that it's something that we want to stand for, and it's bigger than just a win and loss. It's women's sports and the future of it.
Right.
Over the weekend, the Mountain West commissioner, Gloria Narvaez, made her feelings publicly known. Finally, a conference official actually saying something. She said that she was heartbroken about what's going on in the league right now. She said, quote, "It breaks my heart because these young student athletes on both sides of this issue are now under unnecessary scrutiny on a national scale. This situation doesn't sit right with me." Now, one thing to understand about the commissioner of the Mountain West, this is the latest in a number of challenges she's had to deal with this year. For starters, the Mountain West right now is caught very much in the middle of the tectonic shifts that we're seeing in college sports right now because of conference realignment and a lot of that driven by football. 5 of the strongest members of the league are heading to the Pac-12 after this season. And one of those is at the center of one of the biggest stories in college football right now. Boise State looks like a high seed in the upcoming college football playoffs, and Aston Janti is the Heisman frontrunner at this moment. So there's a lot of worry in the Mountain West Conference offices at this point. This is the latest of that. The forfeit mania has even seeped down to the high schools. A continent away right now, 2 kids in New Hampshire, Parker Terrell and Miles Zhang, have found that they're both playing soccer to no one because teams are forfeiting their games because both of them are transgender girls. Never mind that a federal injunction against a ban law in New Hampshire still allows them to play. They've both been the targets of protests and schools forfeiting games. Now, as far as the forfeits go, I'm kind of the mind of Phoebe Rose, who was on our forum last week.
The only way around it is to sanction them and to say to these teams, you play by our rules and you play every other team, or you get out. And that's it.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later in Transposition Sports. A big deal in the darts world. Congratulations, Noah Lynn van Leuven of the Netherlands, qualifying for your first PDC World Darts Championship. Got the job done in the Women's Series 21s in Leicester, England last week, defeating the world's #1 player, Bo Greaves, 5-3, and clinching her way into the World Championships this December. Now, the 28-year-old is a transgender woman. She has been the subject of a lot of scrutiny, been the subject of a lot of controversy, and just like we've seen in high school soccer and college volleyball here in the States, she's had people say, I don't want to play you because of who you are, never mind that you're fully eligible to play. Noah Lynn van Leuven, good luck at the World Championships. And just a note to those who don't want to play her, look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you really willing to give up a shot at a World Championship to placate people who don't care about your sport? Think about it. Coming up next on Transposition Sports, a Campaign 2024 update. That'll be back in a minute, but first, a message from the angry gay grandpa. Just a note, have your Kleenex ready. We'll be back.
So maybe I'll start a little bit softer.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt. I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Welcome back to Transposition Sports. Here's a Campaign 2024 update. You know, for the last few weeks, we've been showing you the ugly anti-trans ads that have been put up, brought to you by the Republicans.
Transphobia for a stronger America.
Here's what some prominent trans leaders had to say about this. Now, we're showing you this because you don't get to hear our voices too often, especially in the mainstream media. But Raquel Willis made her opinions known earlier this week.
What was your reaction when you first saw this Trump campaign ad painting Harris as an extreme liberal that is a danger to conservatism?
I found it very disgusting. I mean, I think it's an expensive tactic to take cheap shots at the trans community. We've seen time and time again the GOP paint so many different communities on the margins as villains in America's story. We've seen it with conversations around migrants. We've seen it around conversations around our Haitian fam and so many folks who are making decisions about their own bodies, including having abortion. So it's not surprising, but I want it to be clear that we can't just let this rhetoric exist. And I think that that's what the Harris campaign has been doing for a long time. It's just letting this kind of anti-trans rhetoric exist and hoping it will dissipate. We have to be clear that it's disgusting that trans folks are being demonized. Incarcerated folks deserve holistic health care. Migrants deserve holistic health care. And trans folks deserve holistic health care like everyone else in this country.
What do you say to parents who don't want their daughters, for instance, competing in sports against athletes assigned male at birth? That's been a big talker for many, many years, especially recently. That's ramped up quite a bit. So what do you think?
I think that trans folks deserve to pursue our passions like anyone else, right? We know that people have all types of experiences, all types of bodies, and there are also so many barriers to participating in sports. So all of this focus on trans folks when there's such a small number of trans folks who have the opportunity to access sports is really disgusting. We should be talking about barriers like economic barriers to participating in sports. You know, there's so many other things. And I think that it's really disgusting that trans youth are living in a time when, of course, there's more visibility than ever before, but there's also more targets on our backs than ever before. This is not a problem, and sports bodies across the country and globally have settled the discussion around trans folks participating in competitions.
Another person who rang in on the nonsense we're seeing in this campaign year is somebody who's running for re-election herself. Montana State Representative Zoe Zephyr. You remember Zoe Zephyr? Last year, the Republicans tried to silence her because she was stating the facts. They tried to drag her through the streets of Helena. Instead, she drugged them. And after she was done, she got engaged. Here's what Zoe had to say.
What is the threat that a second Trump presidency poses to the trans community?
You know, we don't have to look farther than the Trump campaign's closing arguments here in the 2024 elections, where we have seen tens of millions of dollars in ads targeting our communities. And we have seen them make this case. So we talk about the harm it will do to the trans community. We would see national bans. We would see additional targets on our access to healthcare and our ability to exist in public life. But more broadly, we see where their focus is. In the last month of the campaign, Trump's focus has been on excluding healthcare to a small minority of the American population. Whereas you look at Harris's closing arguments are about expanding healthcare, allowing Medicaid to provide coverage for in-home care for seniors, things like that. So we will see impact to healthcare for trans people as well, but we will see the myopic vision of the Republican Party continue to target our community despite the needs of the American people.
And that leads me to the spotlight this week. You know, a lot of people talk about there are two sides to this issue. And you know what? They're right. There are two sides. The thing is, just about everybody misidentifies the two sides. There are many people who say there's these extremes. There's those extremes on one side. You know, the icons, Riley Gaines types who want to ban everything. And then there's the extreme on the other side who say you should let everyone in no matter what. And there's so many of us in the middle who believe in anyone who tells you that is actually on the side of exclusion. These are what the two sides are. One side is total exclusion. That's what the side is. The other side is inclusion. Now, there are many people on that side who have differing beliefs, and you know something? That's okay. There are some who take the extreme view that everyone should be let in no matter what at all levels of sport. I don't necessarily adhere to that view, but I don't find anyone who's on the side of inclusion who's willing to compromise with those whose only stake in the game is, as Michael Knowles said,
transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely.
Eradicate.
To me, it's simple. You're either for inclusion or you're not. You're either for human rights or you're not. And by the way, the IOC has already said it and they stated it plain. The practice of sport is a human right. With those things in mind, I want to revisit what Gloria Narvaez, the commissioner of the Mountain West, said. I want to revisit this because I find this very interesting and I find it problematic. It breaks my heart because these are young student athletes on both sides of the issue who are now under unnecessary scrutiny on a national scale. This situation doesn't sit right with me. Commissioner Narvaez, I disagree with you. More so, you're wrong in two areas. First area where you're wrong is that the only student athlete under scrutiny is the outside hitter for San Jose State. A player who, by the way, has not publicly stated what her gender identity is, whether she's cis or trans. By the way, if she is trans, and again, she hasn't said anything that she is or isn't, she'd be eligible to compete under the rules of the NCAA and the rules of the Mountain West Conference. Rules that you all agreed to and set forth. And for some reason, have no stomach to defend. And secondly, you're wrong in another critical area. The matter that one side is the equivalent to the other. Inclusion and bigotry are not equivalent values. Bigotry is not another opinion. The anti-trans opinions of these schools that are forfeiting these games, which are being powered by people that have no skin in women's sports, no interest in college volleyball. They just have an interest in what Michael Knowles said.
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely.
Eradicate.
That's Riley Gaines' interest. Why else is she putting up this petty personal lawsuit? Because she's upset about a trophy that's sitting on her mantle right now. So no, you're wrong on this. One side is not equivalent of the other. Unfortunately, that is what's happening in the landscape, that people are actually believing that there's two sides to this deal and they're both equal. No, they aren't equal. Another place where it's not equal is in the way that this is being framed in the press and the way that this is being shown to the public.
Some Republicans in the Oregon legislature are calling for immediate action in high school sports after a male student competed against girls in a track meet this weekend.
And after a teenager born biologically male competed in a high school girls track and field meet in Portland.
All these institutions who are happy to trash all those young girls' hopes and dreams as well as their basic human rights in order to entertain the delusions of one young man.
And it was just this feeling of like, what about us? Like there's 18, 19 other women on this team that are having to deal with this and the backlash, and then also having to mentally go through the fact of finding out that this is a man we're playing with and that it's connecting all the puzzle pieces of why Blair played so differently.
When they talk about safety, what safety are we talking about here? Whose safety are we talking about here? If you're talking about the safety of cisgender comfort, that's accurate because that's what this is really about. And secondly, fairness. Whose fairness are we talking about? To be honest, when I hear people talk about fairness, what they're really talking about is cisgender people's comfort. Fairness is defined by what's fair for cis people. Let's just be honest. Let's just own that. Sia Pillai and Brooke Slusser are always talking about fairness. By the way, Brooke Slusser is the captain of the San Jose State team, was a former roommate of Fleming, and is now dropping dime on her to every right-wing anti-trans media outlet with $1 and a dream. I wonder, how fair is that to Blair Fleming? See, when we talk about fairness on these issues, we don't talk about fairness for trans people. What fairness is Parker Terrell, a young girl in New Hampshire playing soccer, or another young girl in New Hampshire, Maëlle Jacques, what fairness are they getting? Where's their fairness? You see, I'm of the belief that they all should get some fairness too. The fairness that says that they will be protected and they will not be the one who people on social media are pointing to them and say, maybe you should just quit the team. The fairness of having governing bodies say, these are our rules. You don't like it? Fine, take the L. Instead of switching a match and making it sound like, well, everything's okay. Where's the fairness in the shame that these kids are getting, but not the shame the teams that forfeiting are getting? And that even comes from schools which are supposedly supporting their athletes. If I'm, last week I talked about if I was the athletic director at Nevada, if I'm the athletic director at San Jose State, I'm publicly shaming every team that forfeited against us. I'll admit to that. Because I believe that that kid, be they trans or whatever, who's taking the heat, should get some fairness too. When we're really serious about dealing with that question, then we will really be ready to move forward. But given the actions of the governing bodies in all of this, I'm not holding my breath. For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.